It's time we talk about the censorshitters. It's been a long time since any censorship controversy has sprung up in regards to Nintendo games because Nintendo games aren't getting censored. There's no evidence of it. There's no real push for it to happen. Like it is nothing but a PC master race cope. This idea that Nintendo is censoring your games. Oh, NOA has this insane control over the people back at Japan. They're censoring the games at the source. I've talked before about how ridiculous the idea is that a game changing it during development is censorship. That doesn't make any sense. Like how dare they make changes to character designs or the scripts or the initial idea? Like, oh no, they can't do that. That's censorship. It is appallingly stupid, right? It has no basis. It's just a gigantic cope to try and make it out as if Nintendo games are somehow going to go down in quality when that hasn't happened any that hasn't happened at all over the past several years. So recently, the thing that people are trying to make a thing, people are trying to say that Emio the Smiling Man was censored because Sakamoto came out and said that like NOA gave some feedback on the game and they cut back on vulgar jokes and stuff like that. And of course, the usual crowd came out and jumped on it. Like, oh, I didn't like the game anyway, but oh man, I can see why. Because they censored it. Oh, I stopped playing the game mid-epilogue because it didn't make any sense. It was just not a very good game to begin with. Like, people are legit pretending that they are huge Famicom Detective Club fans that will never, ever again support Nintendo with future releases because of censorship. Now, if you don't know why this is so amusing, Emio the Smiling Man is extremely violent and messed up. It is one of the only M-rated Nintendo games to be published by them in developed by them, I should say, in recent years, right? Like, I think since Eternal Darkness, actually. This game was kind of messed up in certain ways, especially when you got to the epilogue. Um, so when you take into consideration like the tone, what actually happens in the story, the humor, like the writing, like when you look at all of that, like you'll find that the game is pretty true to what it's trying to do. It was not censored. And this is the thing that the pretendos are coping with right now. Like the thing they're doing, like they're trying to tell you that um the game is censored in development, right? And so what that means is that the entire world gets the same game at the same time. So we don't get like Japanese versions that are uncensored anymore. So what that means is that people are coping and seething about this, making it out to be as if like America is ruining like Japanese exports and stuff like that. But in reality, it's all the games are the same, right? When you look at all of these releases, you see that there are no changes between different regions, and so there is no censorship. So like the whole argument is coming from an interview from people who didn't even play the game, and in a lot of cases don't even like or support Nintendo. Again, this really needs to be emphasized a lot that all of Nintendo's most vocal critics online know nothing about the company, know nothing about its business practices, know nothing about the games, know nothing about the hardware. Like, they don't know anything at all. And so, like, I ask you, why exactly should we ever take these people seriously? Because I gave Emio a glowing review. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good revival of the classic adventure game series. Like, I thought it was the best out of the three by far, And I am very optimistic about the future of these games going forward. I think that we could see a lot of interesting developments coming from this IP. But no, like ever since the game was announced, we've been mired in all this nonsense controversy. People spurging out about the genre, the fact that it was a revival of an old IP. People spurging out, and now you have people spurging out about like the censorship that doesn't actually exist. This is a good example of what I mean when I say that Nintendo is held up to a standard that other companies are not beholden to. Because other companies do whatever they want. Other companies get away with, say, introducing gender A and B, throwing, gays and homosexuality everywhere, being unbelievably gender. Just look at Baldur's Gate 3, right? One of the most disgusting, depraved, broken, uninspired, degenerate, woke games imaginable, and yet this demographic will religiously defend it as something spectacular, right? Even though it's not even like in the top 50 of best games released last year, right? So when you look at like Emio, the Smiling Man, when you look at how this game like was received by the audience, you really get this impression that these people had no intention of supporting or playing this game at all. And those who are complaining about this interview, complaining about NOA, complaining about this release, the vast majority of them not only never played Emio, they know nothing about Famicom Detective Club or its history. They didn't support the remakes. They didn't support. They didn't want the series to continue like I did. And so, like, when you take that into consideration, why would you ever take what any of these people say seriously ever? Like, why? And I'm getting really tired of seeing these kind of narratives prop up. Every time something like this happens, right? Like, why exactly are we still talking about Nintendo censorship in 2024, right? Why is this like a prevailing issue with the community where they seriously believe that Nintendo is taking down like sexually charged games from their eShop? They're not. They people that they're actively censoring female characters. They're not. Like that they're censoring Japanese releases. They're not. Like, where is this narrative coming from? Why is it so pervasive? And why exactly am I supposed to take you seriously? Especially when you delusionally try and gaslight people into thinking that Fire Emblem was way, way better before Awakening. Like, Awakening is what made the series relevant, right? Like, oh man, I sure loved playing Fire Emblem 7 on my Game Boy Advance, which, by the way, aged Lindis up from 15 to 18. Like, oh, that wasn't censored at all. Like, come on. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. These kind of localization decisions are perfectly normal and acceptable. And Nintendo wants them to happen in order to make these games more socially acceptable in other countries, right? Like they can't do what they have been doing. So with that being said, yes, like there is a major cultural shift going on at Nintendo right now. They are learning how to market to a global audience. This is not a bad thing. This is not something that's going to hold the company back. Uh, if anything, the games keep getting better and better, and I'm really, really tired of seeing people pretend otherwise.